This is the Jeskidding podcast where sometimes I say things that are inappropriate. And I'm like, I was just kidding. And then other times I say something and it's like thoughtful and you're like, oh, just kidding. So what's this week's topic? This week's topic is, what was that? What's this week? What are we talking about?
Anxiety.
Oh, God. I don't want to talk about it. That's why I couldn't remember it. This week's topic is anxiety. And do you suffer from it? You know, what triggers it? You know, what do you hate about it? What do you like about it? How do you make it stop? Do you have nervous tics? Does ice cream help? We're going to cover a lot of things in this podcast about anxiety because I have mastered feeling anxious. I haven't mastered what to do about being anxious, but living with anxiety, I'm the king. I'd say if there was like a palace and this was Game of Thrones, I'd be sitting on the anxious throne. You know what I'm saying? And you'd be fighting maybe for it, but you'd never get my seat because I believe that I may be one of the most anxious people I've ever met. So I know, right? That sounds very self-important, and that's a completely different episode. Or like the world revolves around my anxiety, but that's not this episode. This episode is about anxiety. So let's dive in. Are you ready?
All right. I want to plug my nose because I'm anxious. I'll get water in my nose.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good idea because getting water in your nose is just unpleasant. And things.
Hurts.
So that's very interesting. The word unpleasant. So do you get anxious? I know I do about things that are unpleasant that could happen in your future.
I mean, yeah, I can't be an anxious person. I definitely get social anxiety.
Social anxiety. That's a good one. I have to put that shit down. Oh, people in the chat room, by the way, of which there is a chat room for those that are listening. There's a chat room with people that type comments and sometimes join us here in the conversation. We pull them into the voice channel. But people in the chat room, this is Erica Langworthy, artist, really cool person, little anxious sometimes, and I'm Jeskid, just general doofus. So we were saying, so you get anxious about the future.
Social situations.
Social situations. Forgive me.
Yeah.
I get anxious that I can't remember things about what we were talking about. So you get social anxiety, right?
Oh yeah.
What kind of social anxiety do you get, Erica?
Let's see here. I mean, it's mixed. Like sometimes even on Twitch, I'll get anxiety. Like if I go into a chat room or like I see another artist, like I'll go in and be like, "Ooh, I'm anxious to say anything," especially if I don't know them and I don't know their personalities. Like, are they gonna think I'm dumb? Are they gonna ignore me? Or are people gonna come in and are they gonna be like rude about my art and say my art sucks? Is no one gonna talk to me? And then in real life, even with people who are my closest friends, I get social anxiety. I don't know why. I'm like, am I gonna fuck this up? Am I gonna say something wrong?
And what would be the ramifications for this anxiety in your brain? Like, if you were to fuck that up, if you were to say something wrong, if they weren't to like you, what would be the end result of that?
Probably nothing. It's all in my head. It's like, I don't tend to say things to piss people off.
Right, but that's the reality. I'm more asking in your brain. What is the consequence in your brain that you fear that would cause that anxiety? I feel like I'm a fucking therapist, but I'm a hot mess. So
I just feel yeah, you're a hot mesopist.
Yeah, I'm a therapist drunkest. I don't know where I'm going with that. I got anxious about telling that joke. Please continue.
Yeah. Anyways, it's like I guess the fear of some like. I mean, it's kind of loaded. It's like almost like you're gonna be judged. Like, are my friends gonna judge me because like sometimes I'm short on money and like they're like, no, just come out and like, well, we don't mind paying for lunch for you. And I feel bad, and I feel like one day they're gonna be like, we're tired of paying for your fucking shit. You can't come out with us anymore. Fuck you. It's like a weird guilt thing that goes through my head, and like I know if the shoe was on the other foot. Like, dude, don't worry. I would say the same thing they're saying. It's like, don't worry about it. I got you. I have money. You're fine. I don't give a shit. It's lunch. I want to hang out with you. So like, it stems from a couple things, but it's almost like, for me, my anxiety is like negative voices kind of taking over and saying shit that's not true.
Interesting. And it's out of fear, right? That your anxiety you're saying is caused by fear. My anxiety is very similar, and you're sort of listing some cool anxieties that we can talk about a little bit, but my anxieties, I don't have as much social anxiety. I think I'm very comfortable for the most part with other people, but when it hits me, it hits really fucking hard. Like, I'll be at a party. I hate parties, but then I love being at parties. It's a really weird thing. Like, I hate I hate business parties. I fucking hate business parties, which is like, hey, let's get drunk and network. I fucking hate those because I feel like, because I suffer from, I think, social anxiety and financial anxiety as well. I feel like at those things, I'm just not that I'm not good enough because I feel like I am good enough inside, but I have this thing where I feel like they're not gonna like me enough for something positive to happen from that interaction.
Yep.
So, and that could be in a social situation too. Like I remember, like I was the kid that's like, oh, just ask that girl to dance, and I'd be like, my fucking hands would shake, right? And I remember my first dance, I think in my brain at summer camp. I went to a Jewish summer camp, and I'm not really all that fucking Jewish, so I don't know what I was doing there. But I went to Jewish because my friend went. We've talked about this before. I went there because I guess I just needed to. I don't know if I was cultural appropriation. I had the nose, so it was like a passport. So I got in. I got accepted by the Jews, right? And there was this one little girl, and I think I danced with her, and I just did a move. I was like 1 foot that way, 1 foot that way. And I finally had the courage to get her to dance with me. And it didn't make it any better after it was done. And I think I looked at her, and she looked at me with just this look of, okay, I'll stand 4 feet from you and sort of pantomime having some rhythm. But my anxiety to get that moment done, to have that little girl acknowledge me, because everybody was telling me that little girls should be interested in me, of which they were not. But that fear I had of that has plagued my entire life from that moment on, right? Or something in there, because that anxiety in me, and I'm sure that little girl felt anxiety that she wouldn't know how to dance, or somebody wouldn't ask her to dance, or that ugly kid with the big nose might come over to her and ask her to dance. One of those things, and which happened. Then but that anxiety I felt as a child of that I'm not going to be accepted by this person. So I think I do actually have social anxiety. I think there's a discovery being made so that when I go to some business networking event, part of me doesn't give a shit and gets off on not giving a shit. Have you seen or you've heard other episodes of this show, so you realize that I like to be inappropriate sometimes to shock and make people laugh. But other parts of me really, truly want to be accepted, and I'm terrified that they won't accept me. So I think now that you've said that, I think I do suffer from a lot of social anxiety, you know? Sorry, I just went down memory lane, right? And I don't. And in this forum, like on this podcast, it's very interesting because I think that anxiety is contextual for me. I can't speak for you, Erica, but you can tell me a second. The meaning that inside of the realm of this podcast, this is like a safe space. I fucking hate those words, but they apply here so that people understand what I'm saying. The meaning that I'm kind of fearless here because it's a forum to be fearless. But outside of this, I may have an extreme amount of social anxiety. What do you think of I don't think there's anything wrong with having social anxiety as long as it doesn't stop you from acting on things that will help you. Do you know what I'm saying? What do you think of that? The last part.
So as long as it doesn't stop you from doing things that will be helpful to you?
Yeah, like asking that little girl to dance so that you can have the memory of having your first shitty dance. Maybe not in your case, the little girl, but fill in whatever you want into that situation.
I don't know. I think I had less social anxiety when I was younger.
Interesting.
I think, but I got more as I got older because, we're playing psychiatrist today. Because I was different when I was a kid, and
how so?
So growing up, one of the things I remember the most is when I was a kid, there was no girls baseball team, so I had to play with the guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was the only girl on the team from when I was 5 years old to 7, and I think when I was 8, then there was another girl, and then I started playing softball. But then it's just I just liked different things. I liked obviously Japanese cartoons, and I liked different types of music, and people would be like, ew, you like different things. You don't like New Kids on the Block. You don't like whatever this shit is or that shit. Whatever the popular thing was, I typically did not
I love that New Kids on the Block and this shit is the name of the other group.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're not into this shit is? It's awesome.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But as I got older and into my teenage years, I would get some social anxiety, and then I just started developing a chip on my shoulder. I'm like, I don't really give a fuck whether you like me or what I like. I think um now that I've gotten older and like things that would be helpful to me, like I get nervous asking people for things. Like I need to talk to a friend about networking and seeing. I'm curious about some things, but I'm just nervous to do it because I'm afraid I'm taking advantage of this person when they're my friend and they've already offered they want to help me, but like I feel like I'm taking advantage of them somehow, even though they've offered to help me.
Do you feel
I'm
like
like, what if,
do you feel, I'm sorry, do you feel like it's part of that they'll reject that help or they'll think badly of you for you asking for that help?
yeah, so something along those lines, and like
Hmm.
feeling like a loser asking for help. I'm like, oh, I'm a
Oh, I
loser.
feel
I'm
that
asking.
too.
That's
Yeah, I feel that
yeah.
too.
So I feel like a fucking loser, and that's. And like I said, I wouldn't feel that way if anybody asked me. So like, why am I doing it to myself? So I get a lot of anxiety, and I put things off
Right,
that
right.
I shouldn't. And even I'm working on a new type of art that I've wanted to do for the longest time, and I've had anxiety about doing it, but I just sat down and I'm doing it. And I know I'm not as good as the people I admire and look up to that are been doing it for years, and duh, of course I'm not going to be as good as somebody who's been doing it for years, but I get anxiety about doing that. I get anxiety about posting art online because
Yeah,
I'm
me
like,
too.
nobody's going to like it.
Yeah. So do you create that external voice that sort of fuels that anxiety? I know I do when I post these things online. Look, I'm a week late putting the podcast online. And I think that I did another episode of this thing on procrastination, but I think part of the procrastination is the fact that somewhere deep inside of me is this anxious feeling that and it changes over the years for me that not it's not that no one will like it, it's that no one will care enough to watch it or listen to it. And so I build this like negative, anxious fucking voice in my head. And I'm like, I'm not. I'll just avoid doing it. I think it's subconscious too. I think that anxiety can get like beneath the fucking surface. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I think it can bubble up in weird ways. I mean, I think that there's like top level anxiety and then there's like base level anxiety. What do you think? I mean, I experience both. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's like it's a defense mechanism. I think in a way, it's a very.
Hmm.
I think it's like that's what it is for me. It's like, well, I don't want to risk emotional
Right.
harm doing this. Let me just not do it.
Okay, that makes complete sense. So that's about things for the future that might help you or you might want, and I agree with that completely. And I think there's a lot of people in our chat room who feel this way too. I'm looking at some of the comments, but I feel like so that's more the and we'll start pulling them into the so everybody who wants to, by the way, be a part of this at some point, jump into the Discord and then go into I don't know, one of the voice chat rooms, and we'll drag you in if you'd like to be a part of this episode. But that's the sort of internal anxiety. So then there's the anxiety that's sort of caused by external sources, right?
Oh,
Like, you know, I talked about financial anxiety or problem anxiety, like real fucking shit that's like weighing on you. And I think both of these things, for me, I can only speak for myself. Like when I'm having no money, which is a lot in my life, there's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Anxiety is the worst fucking anxiety. But it's also the best anxiety because it forces you to act, right? What am I going to do? Oh my God, I don't have enough rent for blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, my Twitch stream is not taking off fast enough. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I start to get this fucking nervousness about me. And it's like over the years, in some ways, it's gotten better because I deal with more adversity. I've dealt with shit in my life that's really tough. I dealt with stuff in my life I never thought I'd be strong enough to deal with. And that's kind of like and we should talk about that too. There's so much to talk about. Holy shit. Overcoming. I think I'm writing it down because that's a moment of true triumph when you can overcome a really anxious moment. But I find that in other ways, over the years, I've gotten more anxious. Like I feel like that maybe it's because the life pressures have grown. And then it's like, that's why kids in fucking junior high school, like, oh, that's a terrible age. Forget them. High school, right? Well, it depends if it's shitty high school. Elementary school. I don't know what your deal is, asshole. But whatever it was out there, fictional person, a good time in your life. Those are not that stressful. And that's why we look to kids and we're like, oh my God, we want to give them this cookie so that they're happy. And don't give it to the kid. Just give it to Jeskid. I love cookies. But if you were to give it to the kid, you can see the kid smile because they don't have that sort of worry on them. That fucking hyper anxious thing where they're constantly thinking about, oh my God, there's a train that's coming at me or the loaded gun. I think about the loaded gun all the time, and I don't mean that in a weird suicidal. Don't get me fucking wrong. Meaning that like there's an oncoming problem that I don't have the solution to. You know what I'm saying? And that makes me super anxious. And it can come on both sides of the equation. It can be like one that's a positive thing that I'm trying to do, like this, not going fast enough because I'm always in a fucking rush. Or it can come from a negative thing like a draining bank account, which I think is probably, suffice to say, the most cause of anxiety in the world is not having enough to do that, to live the life that you want to live. Would you agree?
That's part of it. It's interesting. The thing you talk about kids is kids don't know any better.
Right.
Like even
stupid.
Even in depending on your life situation, because everybody's different. But even I think in my early 20s, and I think about this shit. I was like, student loans. What the fuck are those? Ha ha ha. And then I get out of college. I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And then credit card debt, whatever. Ha ha ha. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. It's here's a bowl of fuck you from the world. Basically.
Yeah. And then like, as I'm getting older, noticing that my body's getting weird, and I'm not weird. It's just like your body just starts doing weird things, and you get to a certain age.
Don't feel
like,
bad. I got a weird body. Okay, don't feel bad.
Well, you're weird in general,
no, that's
so
fair.
that just kind of that comes with the territory.
Yeah, I'm not anxious about that at all. I acknowledge.
Yeah.
I'm accepting of my weirdness. Okay, your body getting older. Please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, and then like we talk about that, I'm like, oh fuck, I need money for retirement. Oh, I invested my money in this, and that happened. Oh my god, what the fuck? Oh shit, like. As you get older and you become more aware of things, I think that's why some people get more anxiety as they get older. And because you just become more aware of things. And like I said, when you're younger, you don't worry about shit. And your parents try to tell you, like, you don't know anything, you're old. And then you're like, oh, they have more experience than me.
Right.
This isn't an old thing, this is an experience thing. So I can sit there and like, you're old. But I'm like, guess what? Mom and dad can buy cars and houses and retire, and I can't do shit.
But mom and dad have a new anxiety, which is you, which is very, very, very interesting, right? And you also brought up a really cool point that I want to talk about for a second, and then I'm going to go to some comments from the chat room. We're going to keep this a very interactive podcast, which is, I think as a child, and this is, I'm not saying it's not a statement above, but as a child, things like fitting in are very, very, very present. So you have much more social anxiety as a child. Some people have much more as adults. I understand why. A lot of things go wrong. You have baggage. You're fucking scarred from some ex-girlfriend who took your shit and then didn't call you. Oh, sorry. I was going into a very dark place.
Anxiety.
She didn't exist. She doesn't exist. I hope she's not dead. I don't want to wish death on anybody, but I hope she slipped in a puddle. Or something very subtle, okay? Subtle puddle.
She stepped in dog poop.
Yeah, a dog poop puddle. And fell in it, got in her hair. It was like a real shit show. It was a total shit show.
Subtle.
Yeah, it was let's go fucking further. Fuck her. She deserves a shit show.
Okay.
So, anyway. But I think that as a child, right, there's much more social anxiety to fit in, right? Or to figure out how to fit in. Because they just haven't figured it out. As an adult, that social anxiety may grow into like, fuck, I figured it out. But I still don't like it, and it still makes me nervous because I feel like it hasn't worked, right? Because that's tested over time. Plus, as an adult, you get the additional loveliness of, oh my God, who's going to feed me? You know what I mean? Who's going to love me? Who's going to be there at the end with me? Who's going to, you know what I mean? Are they going to fuck up my sandwich at the deli? This is anxiety for me. I have little anxieties too. Sorry, did you have something to say, OC Diva? Did I cut you off? I'm sorry.
No. See, you're constant talking to me.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. See, I'm kidding.
That's fair.
Just kidding.
Yeah, just kidding. Oh, that's fucking. Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's like I said, it's just interesting. As we just get older, but somebody said it in the chat room, and I think so too. Is like I tell myself, even though I'm anxious, and this is where courage comes in. It's like, look. I'm fucking anxious about this, but if I sit here and I don't fucking do anything about it, I'm just going to sit here and be anxious and not overcome it. And it doesn't mean that the anxiety goes away. It's still there, but I do it despite the anxiety. Like, I get anxiety going to fucking job interviews. I get anxiety even applying to damn jobs and like having to write stupid cover letters.
Jesus
Am I going to
Christ.
write this? Am I going to write this right? Did I get my punctuation right? Did I use the spell checker? Even the fucking spell checker and the stupid grammar things. I'm like, okay. whatever. But it, like I said, for me, it's never gonna go away, and you just learn how to deal with it.
I think
That's
it's
what.
cool. I'm sorry. I want to say I think it's cool when you can embrace it in a way that other people can embrace. Like you can make it funny. It can be an accepted. Like I don't have any sense of direction in the at all. Like it's lobotomized out of my fucking brain. So I play these video games on a giant map and I'm constantly lost. They're like, why didn't you go this way, bro? I'm like, because I don't know where I am. That's it. That's basically it.
That's why you're never allowed to lead in a game.
Nope. No, I'm a shot caller, but not a location finder. But if I'm there enough times, I'm like that. I was like that little kid that they were like, little Jess, do you know where your mom is? I'm like, no, motherfucker. I don't know. Those are my exact words. Quote me.
Okay.
So I think that what are some ways to solve anxiety? I think that you're talking about there are rewards in your brain for getting over anxiety, right? Because it's a hurdle, right? But what are some of the ways that you sort of counteract anxiety for you? I use like ice cream. I'm not saying hardcore drugs, but whatever, and fill in whatever the fuck alcohol, whatever you want to say, you can fill in the blank. But like for me, a hot bath, that sounds kind of odd when you say it out loud, but it works. A funny conversation. I go for a walk. Those sort of calm my anxieties. What about you?
See, I work out. That's a
great
really
one.
Helps.
I think working out is one of the best solvers of anxiety because endorphins and feeling of progress and relaxation and there's all kinds of things about working out is the fucking best.
What I do is absolutely not relaxing. So, but the thing is, it's like you can't, like the types of workouts I do, you can't not focus on what you're doing because you'll fucking hurt yourself. And if it's really, really, really bad anxiety and working out doesn't work or taking a walk doesn't work or phoning a friend or whatever, like sometimes I'll take CBD and have it. I call it CBT, and I put CBD in my tea.
CBT, BB.
And yeah, yeah.
Creating bad jokes. I'm very anxious about that.
Look at you.
I know.
But I'll do that to try to calm my nerves. Or just regular chamomile tea. But just overall, in general, it's just like I try to figure out what's giving me anxiety. Is there anything I can do about it? And if it's beyond my control, I just kind of let it ride. Like I said, applying for freelance gigs or even determining, do I want to be a freelance artist? Do I want to go back and do a studio? If I go back into a studio, am I going to be dealing with the same shit I've been dealing with these past jobs? Are the people going to be nice? What's going to happen? And it's like the things that are honestly outside of my control can give me anxiety. I think that's one of the biggest things. And then my brain just makes up shit to make me go fucking crazy. And I'm like, you don't know that. Just go get the lay of the land, see how it is, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. I mean, I think it's important to have somebody else in your life or friends or family or something that will tell you, no, it's going to be fine. I think outside voices help with a lot with anxiety because they calm that sort of negative Nancy in your brain that's making you more anxious than you should be. But then there are situations where you are actually super anxious for good fucking reason. Because, like I directed LL Cool J in October. I'm not just name dropping. I'm saying it for the reason of, man, I was fucking anxious that I was going to fuck it up. Because LL Cool J, he's like an international superstar. And I'm just Jeskid, the guy who's doing this podcast. And I'm his director for the day. And then and I'm working with Fortune 100 CEOs. You know what I'm saying? And like leaders of the entertainment industry control all the budgets across the fucking world for places like Twitch. They go to them. And I'm running the show and I'm like, yo, I am anxious. And I need to find ways to calm down so that I can do what I need to do. And those are great moments because when you overcome that, it's glorious. It is glorious. So I think that something you said that was really valuable is like, I think getting to the root of what's making you anxious can solve the anxiety. Would you agree with that?
Getting to the root of the problem?
Yeah, just in your own brain. Like just being like, what's making you anxious?
Yeah, and like sometimes anxiety, it can be a focusing tool. Oh, I think Zane Dragon want to get your attention.
Yeah, I'm going to look to the chat room and just do. I'm looking over, but I address it all at the same time. So forgive me.
But like I'll be, there are days, one of my old jobs where I'd be like, happily working away on something that I was enjoying working on, and then I get an email. Oh, we got a trailer coming out in a day and a half. Here's literally 35 different languages we need you to make into subtitles for one of our videos. And I will take a breath, have a little panic attack for about 10 seconds, and I use that energy I get from the anxiety just to fucking focus and get done what I need to get done,
That
and
would
I'll
make me
knock it out.
crazy. That would make me.
Yeah.
I'd freeze up.
No, but I'm just like, it has to get done. If it doesn't get done, you're a fucking asshole, and you're gonna ruin the rest of the team's day. So just get your fucking shit done,
Right.
and I'd get it done, and then they would change everything again and have to redo.
That's a whole nother story. That's
a whole.
Then you have to kill the person that's causing that anxiety, which is completely different. But I think it's very interesting. And by the way, spelling for me, my God, writing long things. Listen, I've written 7 feature films, none have sold, but I've made some money optioning. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not a total loser, but but I get anxiety writing shit because I feel like I'm going to spell everything wrong because I'm also missing that part of my brain in addition to the navigation. So, and I think that people are going to judge me. And there's always the asshole, like fucking grammar Nazi, blah, 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 blah. I feel good about myself because you use the you are instead of your. I'm better than you. Fuck that person. You're causing me to be anxious, you piece of shit. I'm sure you're insecure. That's why you're saying it. So back to this thing. So we're going to talk a lot like anxious versus funny, but let's go to the chat room for a few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a whole chat room full of people leaving comments. And we're going to scroll up. We're going to read some of them. And yes, I have been reading while talking this and that. So let's go to Ad. His name is Ad Dig Bick. You guys can figure that out what that stands for. He says, I have social anxiety. Was at an extremely low point in life before I got into trucking. Only played World of Warcraft for 12 to 16 hours a day. I assume it's 6 to 12 hours a day, but it may be 16. Selling accounts when it was the only way I could make money during a tough economic time. Then I get into truck driving in 2013. So now all I tough out is social instead of social plus general anxiety. So basically you were at a point where you had financial anxiety, and then plus you had the social anxiety. You didn't really want to talk to other people. And that's a tough moment because I feel like they can compound. And A, I'm glad you found some solace in that. B, I'm glad you're here because it's a good place to meet people and be less anxious, hopefully. And C, I forgot, I shouldn't have put letters on A, B because I forgot C, and I'm anxious that I'm going to have to talk my way out of this part. So, but I think it's great, dude, that you have overcome some of it. And I think it's great that you're here and you would share it. Because I think part of overcoming anxiety or worry or fear is sharing it. And that's why therapy and shit like that is really good. Because you have a third party that doesn't know you, that's willing to listen to your bullshit and sort of help you dissect why you're feeling how you're feeling so that you can get to the root of it and then hopefully get over some of it. So in the end, you can not only do what you need to do, but be able to do that, which is important because achieving counters it because you're rewarded for countering, but also to get through it in a less stressful way. I think that we all can apply stress unnecessarily to things that don't deserve them. You know what I'm saying? Let's go back to the chat room for a second. I'm not even going to address that comment, Mike. And puppies, how are you? And a diarrhea dog puddle. I don't know what that. I think that's something I said before. Possibly. I say all kinds of stuff.
You're talking about the girl falling.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, she deserved it. I'm still thinking about that. So let's talk about ways to cope with anxiety. One person talked about spending your way out of the problem. And that's a very, very negative thing to do. That will not help the anxiety. OC Diva, would you like to address that one? I can take it if you want.
Oh, no, I dealt with that when I was working at the terrible fucking job. I was like, if I just get this thing, it'll make me feel better. It'll take my mind off it. This will make me feel better so I don't feel so shitty at this awful job. And some people call it stress spending, but anxiety spending, it's like, I think I need this. This will help me do something. It'll help me do this job better, do something better. And then like a month later, you still haven't used the thing. But in my case of the stress spending, I did use every single thing that I bought. But it did not make me feel better. The thing that made me feel better was quitting that job.
So you had to actually get rid of it. And so can we quickly, and then we're going to bring people into the room with us from the chat room, but can you quickly talk about the difference in your brain between worry and anxiety? And my mom will say, if I'm like, no, this is okay, my mom is the greatest lady who's ever lived, on and on and on. You guys know I think she's amazing and smart and brilliant and all those things. But she worries about a lot of things. And when I tell her this is okay, we go through the list. This is okay. Not that she needs me, but I try to be helpful. She helps me a lot. And she runs out of things, she's like, "But what am I going to worry about?" And she'll laugh. You know what I mean? Because built into our personalities is we have to worry about everything always. And we're just sometimes when I'm not anxious, I'm anxious that I'm not anxious. Why am I not fucking anxious about something? I'm confused by living in a state of relaxation. I like it, but it's foreign territory for me. All right, so let's go to the chat room. We'll bring in some people. What'd you say?
Weren't we gonna talk about the difference between worry and anxiety?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I skipped over the actual topic. Good job, Jess. Way to fucking host the show. Please tell me the difference between worry and anxiety. OCDiva/Erica.
So to me, anxiety is like something that you have to take care of. Like, to me, it's like it's a thing, and you're just painting these terrible pictures. Worry to me is kind of like it's not really there. It's just like this fictitious thing. It's like, you know, oh, I'm worried, I'm sick. It's like, asshole, you went to the doctor. The doctor told you you're fine. What are you talking about? It's like, oh, I'm worried about, I shouldn't say finances, but I think anxiety is like you're nervous about something that will come to pass that you have to do. And worry is just kind of like this nebulous background thing.
I feel feel like they're brother and sister.
Yeah.
For me, I'm really worried. I'm super anxious. Like one is describing how I feel about something, and then the other is like how I'm physically or mentally reacting to that. Like today, super fucking anxious, super worried about everything. And then, like, I think worry over time to me, if I'm worried about enough things or I have actual real pressure on me, which I always fucking do for some reason, either it's self-inflicted or it's from external sources like money or whatever the fuck, eventually that will bubble into anxiety. And that anxiety can become panic. And I experience panic sometimes. I'm not saying this to be arrogant, believe me. But in some situations, I'm a very strong person. Very. Like, you throw a fire at me or any of those type of emergency things, I'm your fucking guy. I'm the person you want around. I'm going to solve the problem, and I'm going to solve it faster and smarter and more aggressively, and I'm going to make you feel like $1 million about it. The second it's done, I'll go to pieces. When I'm not in that emergency, I'm not as good. I function well under extreme stress. But when I go through periods of my life where I have long periods of stress, worry and anxiety, they like little ticks start to come out, and like anxiety behind the scenes starts to bubble, and then that will eventually boil into panic. And if not dealt with at some point, I'll be like, I don't know if that's the exact effect I make, but it's something around that. It sounded like a fucking chicken, dog, bird thing, but it's kind of what's going through my brain. So I think worry, anxiety, and panic are all sort of like siblings in a really twisted family, which apparently I've been born into. I think we all live in it, right? Do you live in that? Are you part of my family in that way? Are you one of those things? Oh, Steve, you're the only one here, so yeah. Well, I'm talking to you.
Sometimes I don't know. Yeah, I think sometimes I think the more you're aware of things, maybe the more anxiety you have. I don't know. I don't know if they've done any studies about the correlation between anxiety and intelligence. I don't know. But sometimes I wish I was. And that's not saying anybody who's not anxious is dumb. I'm not saying that at all. Before people are like, you think I'm dumb? No, not at all. But yeah, usually I kind of relate the same thing to you said. When the pressure's on, I'm usually okay. It's afterwards and I like fall apart. I'm like, okay, are we done? We good? Okay, good. I'm gonna go fall apart right now and go sleep it off or fucking roll a blunt, and I'm good. But yeah, I think anxiety and worry are very much two different sides of a coin. Whatever the fuck.
There's some analogy. You apparently you're getting a little anxious about coming up with this analogy or metaphor or simile or whatever the fuck that word is that describes it. I skipped that year in school. All right, let's bring in somebody from the chat room. And Zane Dragon from the chat room said, looks like Jess needs to get into my Humvee because he honestly can't relate to anything in the stream. So listen, some people, and you may be one of them, don't have a lot of anxiety. Or they don't fucking admit it. Or they just don't. There are some. I have a friend who ignorance is bliss. Nothing fucking bothers him. Nothing. And I'm like, how the fuck are you? Nothing bothers you. He's like, just go with the flow. And some people have that personality. I'm the kind of guy, I'm like a passionate fucking knife. You know what I mean? Just cutting motherfuckers. No, I'm not cutting anybody. But meaning like I go through life, stabbing my way through life. I don't know where to go with this, except to say that like, I'm a live wire of a person. That's why people hang out with me, because I'm a source of energy. But with that comes a lot of sort of like self-loathing, anxiety, worry, depression, etc. So let's go to chat room. That was depressing in itself. Hi, Yukio, by the way, who's in the chat room too. All right, let's bring in some people. I may mute you guys when you're not speaking. I haven't decided. But we're going to bring in, it's a lot of guests and a lot of anxiety about to come in here. Could IQ contribute to personal awareness? That's a little bit in the chat room. They're talking about personal awareness and they're studying anxiety. Okay, we'll listen to that later. That's too smart for me. That's going to make me anxious. All right, we're bringing in Jerry and Mike and Steve. So there's a lot of people in here right now. So hello, guys. How are you? The three of you, Jerry, Mike, and Steve.
Yo.
Hello.
Okay, that was very... So I like these voices because they sound very like they're about to say something filled with anxiety. I hear it. It's like, hello. Like they're getting their big speech ready in their brains. I'd also like to mention Danny, who's out there somewhere, who said before in the chat room, Danny said that she's anxious about her voice and being heard on stream. And Danny wants to be part of the podcast. So Danny, if you want, join the voice chat thing and I will bring you in here and we'll make that happen. And if you don't want to, that's totally, you're very lovely and we all love you here. So, and we don't give a shit what anybody thinks about you and your voice because we like you. So if that's something you'd like to do, then go into the voice room and we'll have you in and fuck everybody else. Just saying. All right, so let's get back to this room. I'm going to ask some quick questions for you. They're going to have to be quicker answers because there's a lot of people here. Okay? And I will say, let's start with, I don't know, Steve, what makes you anxious?
Life.
Steve's answer is a life. And so what is like a, that's fair enough. That's a pretty big fucking answer. So what's the result of your anxiety? Like what does that do to you? What is life itself? So do you find it like, are you overwhelmed by life? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think you're going to just say yes to every single thing I say.
Unfortunately, a lot of what has already been shared in this podcast is right on the mark.
Fair enough. Good, good. So how does it make you feel? And if I'm interrupting you, just interrupt back because I'm keeping it going, bro, and I'm rude.
At some point, I'll learn to do that.
Yeah, you can do it right now. I'm giving you permission to interrupt me for the rest of the thing.
Shut up, motherfucker.
All right, that was rude.
I was testing.
No, it was a good test. It was a good test of the emergency shut up, motherfucker system. I liked it. Why don't you, okay, asshole? Wait, I missed the curse.
I don't have a freaking whatever that does.
Yeah, no, you don't have that. So Steve obviously suffers from anxiety, and life, and the result of that, and you've told us, we've talked about this on other podcasts and stuff, is it causes you to not want to deal with people in public, and I understand that, and it causes you to be more introverted, right? How do you get? And I'm sure it has some physical ramifications too, meaning that like
yes, it does.
You should probably have some nervousness about you. That manifests in different people in different ways. Is that accurate? Hypervigilance. Fair enough. So it's more of an extreme case, right? And like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm just your friend talking to you on this podcast. Nah. But what do you? What helps you? What helps you deal with that social anxiety?
Well, as far as social anxiety, being introduced to other people through a person I already know is a huge help for me.
So you feel like because that person is, and I'm asking you. Is that person sort of like pre-vetting you for that person? Being like, oh, he's one of the good guys, so you don't have to maybe pass a personal test in that way?
Yeah, I basically have already proven myself to this person, so I don't have to prove myself to anyone else.
Right. So at this moment, I vet you. You're a good dude. I've known you for over 10 years. I think you're a great guy. Do you feel that way here?
Actually, right now, yeah, my pulse is actually a little higher than it normally is. Mainly because this is a topic that I have lived with for the last 20 some odd years. So yeah, I'm feeling a little anxious right now.
But do you feel with us having done? Do you feel that repetition of something? Because you've been on multiple podcasts at this point, talking about your point of view, which we're very, very thankful for. Does this help alleviate some of it, knowing that you've done it before?
It does. It's easier now than it was on the first day that I was on the podcast. But the only reason why the anxiety is up now is because I've been spending this last 10, 15 minutes trying to think of, okay, what topics can I contribute, or what kinds of information can I contribute to this overall discussion? That hasn't already been said again, because for me, I don't like to repeat what someone else has already said.
So you feel because you want to make sure that you're clear. I'm asking, you're making sure that you're clear, and you're making sure that you don't seem like, and that you seem like you're smart, and then you have something additional to offer. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I want to feel like I'm contributing.
But you are. You are, and I think that all of us. I'll say it out loud. I hope you guys agree with me. So feel free if you like. Is that this is just the tonality of your voice, just the fact that I hear your voice contributes. Does that make sense? Because you're present. You know what I'm saying? Like you're saying, I feel this way. I feel this way in an extreme way, and even that it's helpful to somebody else who feels that way. Do you feel, and I'm going to toss it over to Mike for a second. Mike, do you feel that when you hear other people and because I know you suffer from a lot of anxiety, and that's not a negative thing, it just is what it is until you find ways to deal with it, and I'm sure you have over the years, but do you feel that hearing other people, knowing that you're not alone in this, helps with some of your anxiety?
It can. I think it kind of comes in waves. Sometimes it's, maybe I'm like, oh, well, everyone deals with it. Why can't I deal with it? But sometimes it's like, no, I'm glad because then it's like, well, other people are dealing with it. Then there's hope that I can deal with it because other people have conquered this.
Right.
It like I say, kind of comes in waves, a state of mind, a perspective sort of a deal.
But does it make you feel better that it's not that people have necessarily, or you do realize that I'm asking really, that or do you realize that other people, it's not binary. They haven't either. It's not like it's either over or it's not. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just because it feels like they've overcome it, some of them are still just going through it, and it's just a part of their life that they have accepted. Like I want you to answer that, but I want you to ponder what I'm about to tell you. Is that I deal with an extreme amount of anxiety. Extreme. There was a point in my life, I'm going to reveal something, that I was so stressed out, and it ties to people dying and just really some of life's hardest thing, that my body would shake uncontrollably, in like explosive kind of way. And then it would gone. It was like I would jerk my whole body. And then it stopped, and then it jerk again. Like I wanted to fucking punch a wall and destroy everything. And that's how, because I was holding it in so hard. And I see you, somebody that's very anxious, and I say to myself, if I can overcome it and deal with what I got to deal with and find happiness, so can this young kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have the same strength that I do in my eyes. You just haven't found it in the same way. But I'm also 20 years older than you. You know, and I'm saying this, and I want to see how you feel about it, so that you can see somebody older than you who feels like you do, but has just gotten stronger at dealing with it, and that there's a roadmap for you, and to overcome it. So I'd love to hear your reaction to that. I'm sorry for hijacking that, but I did want to share with you that even though things look like they're all together and that nobody else has this, I put to you that a lot of people do. They just hide it better than you think.
I mean, that's something I've kind of put together over the years myself. I was not aware of the anxiety specifically the shaking and stuff that
it's rare,
brought up.
and it's under extreme circumstances. Don't get me wrong. I'm not walking around the house like I got fucking physical Tourette's. But there is moments that I feel away. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to be clear so nobody thinks I'm fucking the what do you call it? Guy from Jacob's Ladder. Yeah. What? I'm making fun of myself now. I have to. It's my defense mechanism. Sorry, Mike.
I was going to say Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil, fair enough. Or God, I was going to say something about people with Parkinson's. No, not at all.
Oh my God.
I wasn't meant to be offensive. It's just shaking. They shake.
No.
What the fuck do you want? I'm just kidding. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
So you were saying.
See, that's the thing is with I totally lost my train of thought
Because
all
I
can
do that.
imagine-
I totally
I just
fucked
have
you
this vision of you like just shaking right now.
No,
and
not at all.
it's-
You can
it's
see me on
very
camera.
distracting, and
No,
it gives me anxiety.
I'm
and now
sorry,
anxious
God. So does it help you that there's a roadmap ahead of you, that you can see that you're not alone in this?
It helps because it's the it's the hope that I cling on to. Don't know why I posed that as a question, but it's but that's
Well, any struggle
kind
has
of
a
it.
question, so that makes sense.
That's true. Yeah, it makes sense. And it's like I said, it's the hope that I was like, yeah, this is a plan. I will learn from this. I will take this negative experience and turn it into something constructive or creative, or
Beautiful.
something that it's like it wasn't for nothing.
Well, the last thing you said is very interesting to me, because we live in such a this is a very serious part of the conversation, obviously, and I joke a lot. But we live in such a goal-driven culture. We really do, and I am overcome all the time because they're necessary to pay the bills, to be responsible, to be socially not insane, are necessary. So those are goals that are necessary. But there's a lot of goals that aren't. And you'll hear the lesson of like, oh, it's about the journey all the time. You watch the movie Up. That's what the whole thing is. It's the journey, not the destination. So I think that last thing you said makes me think of the goal and not as much as the journey. I think that it's important when dealing with anxiety, I can only speak for myself, to recognize that I don't have to ever get better. I just have to learn to smell the roses a little bit more day to day. Does it make sense? Like, I think that, and focus on, as my friend Carrie would say, being present. Having today go, okay. And don't worry about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 2 weeks from now. Oh my God, what's my small amount of opportunity going to do in the morning? And read up on it at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I do. I get myself very anxious right before I go to sleep. And whereas I could just be like, let me just sit here and just watch something I like, have a tea or some shit, and just relax. And I think it's about the micro for me. I can't speak for you, Mike, but so the goals are important, but I think that making sure that you take care of yourself in the moment to moment, it's huge. Okay, so thank you, Mike. Do you have anything to offer to that? And we'll come back to you if you like, my dude. Anything else?
I was gonna say it's the thing about it wasn't for nothing. I don't. It's. I don't want to say it's a non-answer, but it's. I think it's such a. I don't know what the word is, but it's almost like the word art. How that small 3-letter word can have so many definitions and meanings and this and that. It's like I don't think it's necessarily a goal thing. I think it's not going to be for nothing sort of aspect of it. Is like it could be simply smelling the roses, and
Right.
that smelling the roses is something as quote unquote small as watching a funny video on YouTube or something like that. But I think it's something that is up to interpretation.
I want to go, and I think that's great. And I think that it's good to explore, right? I think it's good to do self-analysis. But I am a believer in analysis paralysis.
Absolutely.
Where you do so
No
much
question.
analysis that you don't live. That all you're doing is trying to figure out a problem that just needs to be simplified. Sometimes you just got to go take a walk. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you can't figure it out. But sometimes you need more. So Yukio in the chat room had an interesting comment. I'm going to read it. She said, sometimes it helps to seek medical advice. I had episodes of anxiety at the end of graduation year because of all the oral exams and papers to be done. I went into a slump mood, fighting everyone, including family, and crying spells, until a friend took me to a psychiatrist, and he gave me temporary medication to overcome that, plus cognitive behavior therapy sessions. I think that's great. I think in our culture, especially for men, there's this stigma of anxiety that getting help is weak, and that you're a weak person, and that you're you're a sissy because you needed somebody to help you. Admitting somebody needing help is looked upon as like a real negative because you're not being strong. But it takes a lot of courage to seek help for something you need. Plus, I think it's just in general helpful to have somebody else to talk to that can sort of correct behavior that's self-destructive. Look, society and culture's all made up shit between a bunch of fucking animals that are called human beings. We make all this up. Religion, and I'm not saying your religion, fuck you, whatever. But I'm not saying that, you know what I mean? But we create meaning so that we can coexist. Facebook. What the fuck is Facebook to the caveman? You know what I'm saying? So we create this meaning, and it's fucking confusing. And so sometimes seeking somebody to help you with that meaning and get down to more base level of why you're doing the things you do, and it was that little girl that didn't want to dance with you when you were 12 that's setting you off when you're 22 and 32 and 42. Whatever that thing was, getting to the bottom is important. And sometimes you've built yourself into such a logical trap in your brain, or there's something there's chemically about you that's just not functioning right, and you need a medical break from it. And I think that's great as long as it's monitored and it's helpful. So I think that's kind of awesome that it's good for you, Yukio, and anybody else out there to seek it, because there's no shame in it. It's bravery. But you also don't want to be, this is my opinion, a person that only folds into that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there are other ways that you can take care of yourself, like working out, like, you know, just seeking good friends, smelling the roses that we talked about. That's what I think. That's just my personal opinion, though. Okay, so let's go. We have a third person in the chat room, I believe. It is Jerry. Jerry, would you like to offer? What do you have anxiety about? What makes you anxious, my dude?
I probably still have anxiousness on like public speaking or in anything like presentations to like senior managers. That's my anxiety.
What is it about doing that makes you anxious?
I think because they're at such a high level and that I have to impress them. Otherwise, because when you're doing a presentation in front of higher ups, it's a double-edged sword, because when you're presenting to them, you're trying to make a good impression, and then they'll notice you, in which case they say, oh, that person, that guy really knew his stuff. And so that's going to be great reward, because come bonus time or performance review, they're going to remember that. But at the same time, if you screw up, that guy was dirt, or he didn't know what he was talking about, right? So in that respect, that ends up being a negative. So you're always taking that chance. And that's what makes me anxious, because I want to do a good job, but there's always something there's that thing holding me back. Is like, am I doing the right thing?
So do you feel like that anxiety, though, is not just social in nature, but it's one that you think has ramifications on a financial model, which then impacts your family, which then impacts your ability to do things and make choices? You feel like there's a cascading effect to that?
No, I think early on, like when I was younger, I was an introvert. And I had to really work on that one. Because I didn't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about in social situations and stuff like that. And same things with what was mentioned earlier, like having problems talking to girls and stuff, or women. But for those, like, I really had to work at it, and what I did was I just had to force myself, have the courage to force myself and expose myself, and understand that, okay, I'm going to make mistakes. So, go to social situations where it doesn't really matter, because if I screw up, I'm never going to that social group ever again.
It's a great thing about living in New York City too.
Right.
It's like if you fuck up you say something stupid in the street, you ain't never going to see that person again.
Yeah.
You may worry about it for an hour, but then you get over it, because you already forgot you see 10 more people.
So if I screw up in a meetup, I go to meetup groups that like doesn't really matter to me, because I know there's a ton of other social groups that I can do, and I just force myself I guess the ultimate one is like, I always had problems talking to women, and lo and behold, I start hanging out at a women's group that had a co-ed event, and now I'm like their mascot. Like they
You're
will
the
not
women's mascot. What does that look
Yeah.
like, Jerry? What kind of
It's
animal are
weird.
you?
It is weird.
Erica, what do you think? What kind of animal is Jerry? What costume does he wear at
weird.
the women's
No,
mascot
it-
event?
it- it's
Walking
more-
side-
Why do you make me
Friend
pick the
zone.
costume?
Because I feel you're a creative person and you're going to come up with something funny.
No,
I-
no, it's nothing like that. It's more like when I first started hanging out, I respected their rules. I only attended their co-ed events, and then slowly, maturely, like I'm the only guy that they will invite to most women-only events.
It's interesting.
And they'll just say, "Oh, Jerry's okay. He can come up."
You should
he
be-
can go, he can enter
You
into
should
the-
be like a fucking like a baby chicken with a giant magnet, because you're a chick magnet. That's what that's your
may-
mascot.
Oh my
You're
god.
You're a
God.
chick. You're a total
Thank
fucking chick magnet with your fucking bullshit. Oh, I'm at the meetup. I'm the only guy, but I'm not gay.
Yeah, you gotta make that abundantly clear.
Yeah, you've kind of figured it out. Actually, that's
Well,
what you
especially
did.
if he's wearing a chick costume.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
like, hey, chick magnet. Well, you got over it, and obviously you come in here and you want to speak on the mic. This is not something I could ever. So, history note, and then we'll go to the chat room for a second. A little bit of history. I've known Jerry since elementary school, and I've known him through all social situations. And he used to be the game master, the dungeon master for all our role-playing games. So he was in a leadership role. And in that moment, he had no social anxiety. Or at least I could tell he didn't have social anxiety. In fact, he was very fucking bossy. You were bossy, bro. And I died
was.
a lot because you were very demanding of which fucking arrow I use or whatever stupid game we were playing at the time. Bullshit. I want a fucking refund for those years.
Well, I'm sorry, but that particular game demanded that people die.
That's fair. That's fair. So don't play games. The lesson here is if you don't want to be anxious with Jerry, don't play games where people die a lot because he'll just...
With Jerry.
Yeah, he'll fuck you over. So
Yeah.
let's go to somebody else for a second. Somebody said in the chat room, anxiety is fun. That's Cracker Boy. His name is Cracker Boy. But then I was like puzzled by your comment, the anxiety is fun, because I couldn't say it. I couldn't tell if you were being jokey to get attention or if you were being serious. Like it's like, oh, anxiety's fun. Like it's not fun. And then you said after you have social anxiety where you think you'll be judged for whatever you do.
Oh yeah.
Most people will judge you for whatever you do, and that's just is what it is. But that's okay. Let them judge. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing is as you move on from here, you say let them judge. Let them say whatever they're going to say. Because people, especially in our new outrage culture, which exists, and I'm a liberal guy and progressive, but come on, it's getting crazy. We'll have another podcast about that shit. But everybody has an opinion all the time. That's the new way things are. So no matter what you say, what you do, somebody will have an opinion about it. Positive, negative, sideways. And as you age and you realize you ain't on this earth forever and all those other things, hopefully the less you'll give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Because you realize that you'll get 75 opinions and they'll all be 75 different opinions. And you can't value them all. And if you try to win them all over, you'll lose. And when you learn that lesson enough, you'll be able to say something and you won't care. So if you think you're going to be judged for everything you say, fuck it. You're going to be judged anyway. You're going to be judged if you say nothing. If you're the quiet guy in the side of the room, somebody's going to look at that quiet guy, Or you'll be self-judging yourself. So at some point, let that shit go. It's stupid. And I'm preaching this to myself, by the way, because I do give a shit what other people think. But in this moment, with this microphone, not really. But after, I'll be like a hot mess. I'll be anxious. Oh, it's a bad job. Nobody likes me. And then I'll get over it. And then I'll do it again so that I feel that way a little less. Like when I first started doing this podcast, I was extremely anxious. It would be like a half hour before, and I'd go into this like mini fucking flip out. Because even though this is a small community at this moment, not for long, motherfuckers, but even though it's small at this moment, I always have to do a great job. Because that's the only way I'm going to change my future. And that ties into personally, socially, what I want artistically, financially, all of these things. So I used to have massive anxiety every time I did a podcast. Now, at 6:45, I know I got this, I got that, and then I just get in the mic and talk. My next level of this will be doing this during the day for like an hour a day while I have coffee. And I'm super anxious about it. It's not going to work. Nobody's going to care. All these voices. Then you do it the first time. Then you do it the second time. Then by the 10th time you do it, just like other people maybe judging what you say, you won't give a shit. And it's just something you do. It becomes automatic to you. But that takes time. And that's something I hope to get over for myself. So I'm not just preaching, this is how you get over anxiety. Because I hate people who fucking preach. I really do. But I am saying that practice makes perfect. And sometimes being in an uncomfortable moment is great. I had some film shoots, and OCD was working on a film with me, Erica here. And I remember it was drawn by Payne, which won all kinds of awards and this and that. But you guys saw, and Steve was in it. Steve flew out to be in it. And man, the pressure on this thing was just off the chain. And I was like really worried. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this shoot this weekend. There's 30 people there. I'm just the only person running the whole show. I bit off more than I can chew. How am I going to do this? And she said, well, you've done this so many times. You always say this. And you always hit a home run. I'm like, oh, yeah. That makes fucking sense. Just do what you always do, even if it's uncomfortable. And that's part of the ways you can deal with some anxiety is just practice makes perfect. You know what I'm saying? So
I remember that that trip into Boston when we were doing the filming.
Right.
On the drive back, you were so exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't think the end of the world could have woken you at all.
No.
You were just out like a light.
Well, to give perspective on that day of shooting, I had all of you fly in, and I planned a big group scene. And I was the director. I was the shooter, the cinematographer. And I was the producer. I was every role. Yeah. And I had shooting on the streets of this New Hampshire small town city, right? And I had 40 to 60 people there to be part of a scene that I had to run with no assistant director and no crew. And I had to make it look great. And I had one shot to capture this whole thing within a 2-hour period before we lost the light or 3 hour, whatever it was, and everybody went away. And that's it. And I was going to look like a fool in front of everybody there. And what if I didn't get the shots? What if the movie never works out? I mean, the pressure was off the chain. And then that day, we were going to shoot in the streets. I'm going towards where we're going to shoot, and there's a parade. And
I remember that.
I flipped out on the way there. I can't do this. And I remember Erica was in the car with my friend Victor, and they were joking and being normal as they should be, being friendly to each other. And I yelled at them because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle anybody even making a slight joke when I was under that much pressure. And that was my fault because, it was just too much to take on. But I did it, and the scene was great, and it's in the show, and we won awards. And when I have tough moments, I try to think back at those moments that I overcame. And that sort of helps me with anxiety of the future. But man, that was fucking tough. Holy shit. All right. So back to the chat room, and welcome Squirrel and everybody else who's joining the chat. It's really good to see you guys. Mr. Berger, how are you, dude? Asked me to review his song. I don't know. That might make you kind of anxious if I did that live on stream with everybody else. I'm going to drag in I Now, and we also have David in here too. But let's drag in I Now first. I Now, how are you, dude? Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, what's up?
What's up, dude? How old are you, kid? I forget.
I'm 16.
16, great. So you're 16, you're Canadian.
Yes.
So does apologizing all the time make you anxious?
Yes.
That's a Canadian joke. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I was punching down. So what do you have to say? You're in high school, right?
Yes. I mean, I'm someone who gets usually really good grades, right? But I'm always stressed out about it because I really want to, like, pass and have a good job and, like, do what I like to do. But, like, I don't know why, but in each exams, I just get so like, stressed out. And sometimes I fail because I studied a lot, like 2 hours or 3 usually, but I still like, miss it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what happened?
And so what? Maybe.
Yeah, like.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
I just feel like I'm just way too stressed about exams in general.
So, okay, let's talk about that. Put the video game down, by the way. I have, in my brain, it's saying to me that you are both playing a game and talking to me at the same time. Am I incorrect about that?
You're correct.
Press pause.
Are you playing a competitive game where you'll lose some sort of
yeah,
rank?
I mean, but I don't like.
It's fine. We'll put
don't.
up with your keys, even though they're making me extremely anxious for the next 2 months, right? Because I play the same competitive game, and if I was to lose that
know.
game because somebody pulled me into a podcast, I'd be pissed. So,
Yeah.
what do you do to deal with the anxiety? How do you get over it?
I usually like think about the best thing that could happen. Like
That's interesting.
I'm going. Let's say like, I can get 80 there. Like, I can get a really good grade.
Dude, that's crazy positive. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So in your situation, when you feel bad about something, in mine, I could learn something from you at this moment. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I'd love to hear from you for a second. But what a fucking great answer. But this is the answer a 16-year-old can give because you haven't been scarred by all the bullshit of life. And I say that
Yes.
because I'm a coward.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not a coward. I'm doing a podcast for the world. But what a great answer is, you look to what the possible most positive outcome could be, and that
Yes.
gets you over it. Whereas me,
Exactly.
I tunnel into a world of fucking hate and stress, self-loathing,
Yeah.
until I can't take it anymore, and then I burst onto the scene with a podcast. So, interesting. So what are your reactions to it? I'll let David, who's in here too, he's a very positive guy for the most part. David, what's your take on that? If you're with us. Are you with us, David?
Yes.
Okay,
I am.
caller, are you on the line? Caller,
No,
yes.
I really like that perspective, actually.
Amazing, right?
See, I use it actually the other way around. I actually think about the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah, me too.
But
All the time.
but hear me out on it. It doesn't make me anxious to think about it because chances are it's not going to happen. But I go down really far, right? Because I feel like people usually tend to think about negative things too negatively. But if you start thinking objectively and you dive down into what really, really could happen, like realistically could happen, it's never really that bad. So, for example, let's just say that you are in high school and you're taking a chemistry test, right? What is the worst thing that could happen? Literally, the worst thing that could happen.
You could blow up the school, bro, with the chemicals.
Okay, well, that.
I mean,
But see, exactly, that's not realistic.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Right? Because I wouldn't say, sure, anything could happen, but realistically, that's probably not going to happen. I mean, it's not within your power. I'm talking things that are within your power. It's within your power to get either 100 or to get 0. Realistically, if you studied, you're not going to get 0, right? Maybe you're going to get a 60%. You're going to get a 70%, something like that. So the worst thing that could happen is maybe you'll fail the exam, right? Maybe just by a short margin. But really, what does that entail? Usually it entails that you can take the exam again and you'll do better. You'll know the answers and you're going to be better anyways. That in itself should give you some solace that even if you fail this exam, it's not like you're failing at life. You're not failing at all these aspects. You don't extrapolate from just this one fail. You just concentrate on this one thing and you say, okay, I failed here. Now what I can do is I can study harder, or I can study in this where I was weak, and I'm going to do better. So thinking about the worst case scenario and getting better at it will actually make you better as a whole in life. But just don't extrapolate for that. Don't think that this one event is going to dictate what your life is about.
Yeah, I'd like to follow that. I think that's an amazing answer. As always, you do offer quite a bit of insight. But I do think, and I'd love to, I'm going to go through the room and ask this, right? And then I'm going to ask a more positive question too. Do you, I know I do, when under a more general anxiety, not even a specific thing like long time pressure or heightened situation or, something that make a normal person crazy, whatever, living in a horrible situation, whatever. Do you sometimes take those moments that happen and extrapolate them onto other parts of your life? Because I do. I take like, this thing is going wrong, therefore I must be a blah, and then this is not going to work out, and then that's not going to work out going forward. Like I must, like, I bet on this thing and I lost or whatever,
Yeah.
and that means I'm an idiot, and that means I don't handle my finances well. That means that I'll never be a blah, and I'll never have this, and it's like a catastrophizing fucking road.
Yeah,
to
you just blame yourself.
just depression town. Like, you could take a video game that I play, Overwatch. It's a competitive game, and there have been nights where I lost to this game, and I've walked away feeling like I'm just never gonna be good at this, and I'm never gonna. It's a weird thing. Like, you extrapolate this negative data onto the rest of your life. I'll go through the chat room and ask really quickly, starting with the bottom to the top for me. Steve, do you do that?
Absolutely. Basically, it's what contributes to my depression and my current state of mental health. Failure. Doing anything. Putting myself out there in either my art or employment or just my day-to-day life. I tend to hold myself to such high accountability that it makes I sabotage myself. I kind of make it easy for myself to fail.
I do that too.
And then
Yeah.
that in turn gives me a reason to beat myself up over it. Case in point, I did not graduate from basic training, the Air Force. That's where I got hurt. I got hurt during basic, and in my eyes, in my head, I developed this sense of failure that I couldn't even pass that. Well, then the following years, I got fired from 2 jobs. I had to quit a third because of a panic attack on the job. It was loss prevention. I was doing security work at a large store, and I told my boss, like, I'm sorry, I'm my hands are shaking, and I told Black, I'm freaking out right now. I'm not going to be able to give you my 100% on this job. I have to step away. And he's like, you know what? Not a problem. I only worked that job 2 weeks. So yeah, I look at each one of these successively and add on to them, and will always remember that one instance, even though it was 11 years ago now.
Do you?
2000.
I just gotta jump in, and I do have to go through the room, but I do want to say
Yeah.
something particular about what you're doing, and I want you to think about it like this, because I do the same thing and I can relate to it, but I can also show you a little bit of a way out of it. At least my way out of it is that I want you to think of, the connect the dots pictures you drew when you were a kid, and you would connect the dots, and all of a sudden, oh, that's what it is. After you saw all the dots together, or you could say the same thing for constellations in the sky. Right, there's a teacup, right? Or it could be a dragon. It could be a million things. Is that you're drawing those dots, and you're drawing from point to point to point, and you're creating that picture that's potentially plaguing you. Because I do the same thing. But just remember, that picture can be anything. Those dots can be drawn in a different way. You can draw parallels and say, I just drew this fucking diagram of this amazing version of me that only came from learning from each one of these experiences. And look at the amazing friend I got. If you drew those same dots and be like, I met this amazing person here. I learned how to, like, enjoy this kind of food here. Now you're just drawing a different picture. You know what I'm saying? Because all those can be drawn from the same experiences. That's just sometimes what I do. I just look at that. I think of that connected dot thing. I think about what I'm creating with it. And I think about how I can redraw it to make it more motivating or happy for me. But let me jump around for a second. OCDiva, we had asked, do you extrapolate small failures to be worse problems for you when you're feeling anxious? Erica.
Yeah, that happens. Like, I'll be like, why couldn't I stick this out longer? Like, because I didn't succeed here, that's probably why I'm having a hard time now. Without recognizing all the stuff that was positive that I did. So I'm like, okay, like I said, it's a pain in the ass trying to find a gig. It's like, holy shit, everything has changed since I was working, and I come out of it. I'm like, you can't get a job because of X, Y, and Z. Or I see, like, After Effects artists, and I go look at it, it's like must know Premiere and this and this and this and that. I'm like, holy shit! It's like if I get the job and I go in, they're gonna find out I don't fucking know these programs. which isn't true because I can learn any program, but I'm just like, good God Almighty.
But that's obviously a point of anxiety for you. But just making sure we stay on topic here. But you definitely extrapolate past stuff and you put it on future stuff. Like meaning that this must have happened. I had a negative experience in my last job thing. Therefore, I am not as good a person. Like that's the ultimate form of, or I'm not as good as I thought I was. I'm not saying that about you, but I'm saying that that's the kind of extrapolation you can do from taking one type of data and then putting it into another thing that doesn't necessarily apply. And I think that's, you're saying that you do that. I think we all do it to some extent. Am I wrong?
No, because I think it's, at least with the group of people that we talk to, it's like you were always trying to do something better, or always trying to be better, or do things that are challenging.
Right. So we're learning from my experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an anxiety that you're not going to be able to rise to the challenge again. Like, can I do this again?
Interesting. And in some people, it's an anxiety, like in Steve, that the past will repeat itself. Right? People have that in relationships. And that's what baggage is, right? Is they bring the bullshit from the last relationship into the next one. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
I think in that regards, that's a different topic in and of itself, but I can understand that.
So we'll just do two more quick ones, and then I want to hear the positive side of all this, because I want to end on a good note. And I think it's important to realize that this is just an exploration of a topic. You notice in these things, I don't really have always a particular point of view. I like to talk around things so that we just have a better understanding of them as in a 360-degree view, almost like in a connect the dots kind of way. Do you, Jerry, extrapolate negative data and personalize it for yourself sometimes?
I used to. I don't anymore.
What helped you not?
Really, I look at all the small failures that I had, and I try to learn from that experience. I think that's been my best antidote for that, in a way. But I used to internalize a lot of stuff like, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't do this right. But as I started to get more wins, I started to realize, hey, I'm learning from my mistakes, or hey, I am doing a good job. And no, I'm not this idiot. Or if I am the idiot, I can joke about it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
So, and I just feel like I still have a little anxiety, but I know how to deal with it now, because like when I was telling you earlier about the presentation with senior management, I over prepare, or I try to use things like role-playing games as a way to figure out, if I'm in this person's shoes, what are they expecting out of me, and what questions are they going to ask me if I present it this way. I try to anticipate all the answers, so that way I'm overly prepared. And then and for the public speaking part, I just over practice. Like there was one presentation that I had to do in front of a lot of senior management, and we did a practice run, and I had 2 months to do it. So we did this practice run, and they were saying, "Oh, you're reading from a script. You need to know your stuff inside and out, all this stuff." And then I just said, "You know what? I'm going to read it off my script anyway. I just got to practice so that I'm not nervous." So I came up with this technique where I just read through it, and every time I made a mistake or I made a pause, I had to start over. And it was the most painful experience to do.
It's awful. It's fucking
awful.
Because,
yeah, it was like, but after like an hour and a half of just like trying to do it perfect, I did it perfect. And then literally a half hour later, I was supposed to present again my second practice run. They said, "Yo, much better. You're not reading off from a piece of paper." And I'm thinking in my head, yes, I am, motherfucker.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Well, we don't see the paper, so.
But that's how I got over it. And then they gave you suggestions, and I took it to heart, because I know you don't like to say safe space, but that.
Yeah, but it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
but those suggestions were to help you because they want you to succeed, you know.
Right.
So so I just said, I took it to heart. It's like, yep, I can do that, I can do that. And so that's how I got over my public speaking. But in general, I would say that to get over anxiety, you just have and I know it's hard. The only way I got over it is overexposing myself to that anxiety, so that I could get used to the uncomfortableness.
You put yourself in the fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Trial by fire. And then the other piece is just plan and know where all the pitfalls are, so that you can anticipate those pitfalls.
Interesting.
Like for finances, for example. You know, if you know, like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to make $4 million by the time I hit 65 or something like that. Well, if you're, and I'm going to pick on someone on the chat right now, if you're 16, you can start saving now.
Oh, that was going to
I
be me
mean,
for sure.
I'm
I'm like,
not-
you fucking financial idiot. Please. The 16.
No,
Yeah.
16, you're at the perfect time right now. The
Yeah.
younger you are, you're better, because if you
Yes.
invest and you invest correctly, that compounding interest over time will help you become more financially secure.
I already invested things.
Look at
There you
this.
go.
Look at this.
There
A
you
fucking
go. There you go.
financial manager meets his fucking prodigy. All right, so let's
There you go.
let's jump over to and we don't have too much more time for this, but did you want to say something? I know.
Yeah. To go over what you said, like put yourself in the fire. I like that. I'm someone who used to blame a lot, like other people for what I do. I don't do anything else. Like I don't really blame people anymore. I just put myself in the fire. Like I do improvisation at school over
smart.
I'm just on a stage over like 400 people. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to improvise. Like I don't have a sheet of paper, and I can't like always be not stressed. And this is how I got over a bit like anxiety and everything, because this specific like stage helped me so much in terms of like not being so stressed. Like I don't know if you imagine just being in front of all your friends, all the school, the whole thing, and if you mess up, people are gonna go to you and be like, oh, you're bad, like you can't do this, you can't do this. Well, no, it's not what I thought. I thought it would help me, and this is what it did.
Because you went back to what you said before, was you found the thing in it that was
Exactly.
the most positive outcome for you. For you, it's very smart. You're a smart kid, dude. Puppies, you have something to offer this? And I want to ask a chat room question, then we'll close it out with that.
Sorry, repeat the question so that I can stay on topic.
Well, I think it was just in general sort of like, well, actually, we think it started with you with the extrapolation of this. So let's go through the room real quick and just get what's a positive thing that you can do to get over some of your own anxiety.
So, I mean, for me, I rationalize everything, right? That's just the way I deal with pretty much all things in life. So I think that with anxiety, there's always an element of irrationality that comes in it, where you sort of want it to go away and you're sometimes not sure why you're feeling this way. So what helps me is just to think, okay, why am I anxious right now exactly? And then break it down into, I don't know, a few points, whatever is tangible for you. And then think about those points and think about what you can do to make a change. And then start doing them. And if it's too much, break them down a little bit further and then start doing those things. And then usually that dissipates the anxiety. So for example, recently I got laid off of my work. What is it that I can do, right? I can either just, stress about it and say, oh, what am I going to do? There's going to be this and that. And there was a little bit of that, obviously. But then I started thinking, okay, what can I do? Dust off the resume. Okay, let's update it. Let's put this point in. Oh, I did this. Let's put that one in. And then let's start singing it out. And that calmed my anxiety a bit, because I'm like, oh, I have a lot of qualifications. I should be okay. Then I started getting some interviews back. I started getting some job offers. And now I'm good, because now I have 3 job offers. So I actually have to pick.
Congratulations.
I have to.
I really
Thank
like
you.
that.
It's amazing.
I have to pick now. Which one do I have? So I'm very calm, and if anything, it was a really good thing, because now I'm actually looking at a really good prospects. So I think it's always good to break your problems down into pieces that you can actually manage, and don't worry about the things that you cannot manage, because you can manage them.
Well, that's
Just
the trick
do
of
the
life,
things
right?
That you can do it.
Well, that's the trick. I'm bad at that, but sometimes I'm great at it. I sort of oscillate. So don't have a lot of time left. Mike, what's a quick thing that you can do for yourself to help with deal with your anxiety?
learn stuff. It could be anything. It could be how to cook a thing. It could be how to make a script in some coding language or whatever. But I find that if I take some time to learn something, it feels empowering, and it feels like I have built myself, and this is something that could help me, even if that help is going, I don't know how to code for shit. But it's like but having that moment of I'm trying to learn and grow and potentially better myself, I find that helps relieve at least some of that anxiety, specifically some of that hard-hitting anxiety.
That's awesome. So I'm going to end this thing in a second, but I want to say a few words before we go to the audience that listens on Twitch, on YouTube, on iTunes, and SoundCloud. We're all over the fucking place. This is a testament to being strong by having you guys here. And I know Erica had to go, I think, and also Steve. But between Steve, Erica, Mike, Young, Jerry, and David, we're just a sub-sampling in the people in the chat room of people who suffer from anxiety. Because everyone does. Everybody has stresses, worries, fears, and they percolate and pop up and extrapolate in different ways. But on a personal note, I'm proud of you guys, especially my younger friends here, because it's not easy. You know, it's not easy to deal with real stresses, and some of you have them more than others, or think that they have them more than others. And
even
I'm really
right now.
Yeah,
even right now, like my second language is English, right? So I don't like speak English like that well, but I think I can.
You're doing a great job, my friend. But to Steve and Mike and me, I'm talking to myself, and Erica and everybody else out there who suffers from the feeling of I'm not doing good enough. Things aren't working for me. I can't handle this. I'm proud of you for coming here and expressing it, because this is a first step towards, or step number 75 or step number 10,000 towards sort of owning that anxiety and finding ways to overcome it and to deal with it. Jerry, who's here, who is never a public speaker, needed cue cards or felt like he was reading off a script or had social anxiety as a child, now freely comes in here and expresses himself masterfully, eloquently. And it's amazing. It's amazing. It's nice to have a place that we can all come together and be friends and feel like we've accomplished something by exploring something in our brains together. And sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it's just something that just makes me feel good about being part of this community.